This week on AnimeCons TV, I'm talking about East Bay Comic Con. Hey everyone, welcome to AnimeCons TV. I'm Patrick Delahanty. This week I'm reporting on East Bay Comic Con. It's a comic convention that is held in the East Bay. By East Bay, I mean the eastern border of the San Francisco Bay. So it's northeast of San Francisco, it's north of Oakland, and south of Sacramento. It's held in Concord, California. And this is a convention that runs a bunch of the people that run this convention run a bunch of small one-day conventions in the Bay Area. And so, strangely enough, I've been in the Bay Area for 6 years, and this is the first of their conventions I've been able to get to. There's usually a schedule conflict that I've been unable to make it. And so I was finally able to go and check out one of their cons. And now, I want to say my first impression of this convention was looking at their website. And I've been seeing their website for years, even before I moved out here, because I've been tracking them on fancons.com. And their website is terrible. It looks like it's from the late 90s. And they haven't updated the look for as long as I can remember. They've got just a terrible design. It doesn't work well on phones, and I wish they would spend a little bit of money or get a volunteer that can redesign that site. And you could use, they do use the same design for every one of their conventions, and just get somebody to update that for all the conventions. Just change the logo on it, and you can keep using that for another 10 years. But it needs to be updated. It's so bad. So anyway, that was my first impression, and it made me think, all right, this probably won't be that great, because if they're not spending money on their website, they're obviously not spending money on their con. Well, I got there and I was surprised, because apparently it's really popular. I couldn't find parking. I circled the hotel and finally found somebody wheeling some luggage out to their car, and so I waited and stole their spot after they pulled out. I guess they had just checked out. And I had arrived before the convention was scheduled to start, so people arriving later in the day, apparently they had to park across the street. There's some shopping centers and there's offices, and so they're taking parking spots elsewhere, and then they have to cross the street to come in. As I circled around the hotel, I saw the line to get in was fairly large, and it went out the front door and almost around the corner of the hotel. And so I was thinking, oh great, after I park, I'm gonna have to wait in this long line. And it almost discouraged me from even bothering with the convention. It's like, but I figured, okay, everybody's waiting, I'm here. I drove an hour to get here, I might as well see how it goes. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I got in the line for people paying at the door, and maybe within 10 minutes, I was in. And it had died down by the time I got to the line, too. It wasn't as long as it was before. And so the line to pay at the door moved faster than the line for people who pre-registered. And I mean, I suspect that's because you pay at the door, you hand over $10, they give you your badge, and you're in. Whereas if you pre-register, well, here's my name, here's some proof I registered or whatever it is. They have to look it up and verify, and then you get it. As opposed to just $10, okay, here you go. So if you're going to this, it's only $10. So pre-registration, I don't know what the registration price is, but you're not going to be saving that much. So if you plan to arrive right when it opens, maybe just pay at the door. I don't know if it's usually like this. Now, later on in the day, the pre-registration line was really short because people who had pre-registered all arrived early. The people paying at the door kept arriving throughout the day. So eventually the lines shifted, and so pre-registration was better. But if you're pre-registering, probably going to be there early anyway. You're not going to pre-register and then show up halfway through the con, or maybe you will. Anyway, I got there, and it was, as I expected. Once I saw the line to get in, it was fairly crowded. This particular hotel isn't a large hotel. They don't have these massive ballrooms, and so for this convention, what they had done was, it was one of those configurations where there's several smaller meeting rooms, and they open the air walls between them, and they create one larger room. And so this had the dealers' rooms, or the vendors' rooms, separated into two areas. There's one, as you go in, there's one on the left and one on the right, up some stairs. And they both had vendors and artists intermixed. And so there wasn't a set artist's alley, there wasn't a set dealer's room. It was all mixed together, which is, it's fine, especially for a smaller convention like this. But the rooms, they weren't overly large. It seems to be okay for a convention this size. I expected maybe, 100, 200 people, but there's clearly more than that showed up. And because there were so many people and they had the vendors in there, it was hard to move around in some parts because there were just so many people. And even when you could get through, sometimes you would have trouble getting to the vendor to look at something you've spotted on the table because there's other people there crowding around the vendors. I don't know how well the vendors did at the convention, but I'm assuming they did pretty good because there were a lot of people and the vendors' rooms were always crowded, and really the vendors' room was pretty much the only thing to do at the convention for most of the time. They did have a panel area. I won't call it a panel room, and they only had that. So they, at any given time, would have one panel going on with a discussion with a guest or various topics. And I did go to some panels, and they were interesting topics, but there was only that one. So there was no other programming happening. So if you weren't interested in that particular panel, well, you can wander the dealer's room, and that's about it. Now, the panel area was on the upper level of a courtyard. The hotel's designed so that it surrounds this inner courtyard. There's a nice little brook running through it, and then there's a upper level where the panels were, and the middle level and a lower level. The panel area was half of the upper level. The other half was tables and chairs used for the hotel's restaurant. The middle level that had tables for the guests of the convention. So if you wanted to meet any of the guests or get something signed or buy some of their merchandise, that was all in that middle area. And then the lower level, they had some pinball machines with free play. And also in the middle level, they had a couple cosplay booths. One of them was the Imperial Outlanders. I thought at first it was the 501st, but apparently it's a different Star Wars Imperial cosplay group, which I didn't know something like that even existed. But that was a bit weird to me. There was also people cosplaying as rebels. I wasn't sure, because that wasn't the 501st, I'm not sure if that was the Rebel Legion or not. There was no sign saying exactly who they were, so it might have been the Rebel Legion, I'm not sure, but that anyway, as for the dealer's rooms, I did notice there were a few empty tables, which struck me as odd because there's a lot of people there. So did they not book all the tables, or did they book it and people didn't show up? Or maybe they held some back in case a guest needed it or something, but then didn't sell it. when they found out they wouldn't. But so I'm not sure why there were a few empty dealers' tables, but there were. But if they do have tables available, it looks like the sort of convention where a comics seller would probably do pretty well, or somebody selling, some nerdy toys or something. Hopefully not Funko Pops. There were tons of people selling that, which I have no interest in. There's also vendors selling Lego, a couple of vendors selling Lego. There was one selling light up signs, which is really cool. The LED lights light up some clear acrylic with some design in it that was neat. There were a bunch of cosplayers going around, so they seemed to be having fun, getting pictures taken. But, with only one programming track, that one panel area, I found myself getting bored because I had already made probably 3 rounds of the dealer's room. It looked at literally every dealer except the Funko Pops because I don't care. And I'd gone to a couple panels, and by 1 p.m. I'm like, all right, I've seen everything. I look at the panel schedule. I might be interested in cosplay, but I didn't want to stick around all day if there's literally nothing else to do. So I left. And I got bored. Now maybe it would have been different if I had gone with some other people and had been cosplaying, so we could cosplay together. But it definitely would have been better if there was more panel programming. Now, also improved panel programming because, and I say that from a technical standpoint, because it was on the upper level of that middle atrium, so sound kind of echoes in that big room, and it overwhelms the panel stage. Fortunately, they did have a speaker, but if anybody's saying anything before they get the microphone, you can't hear them. And the crowd was quick to let people know, hey, we can't hear you, but still, everybody's got to have the microphone, and it was just a lot of external noise. So it's hard to hear. And but I'm assuming the hotel doesn't have any extra meeting space where they could have put some of these panels, or maybe it's not big enough. But I'd say maybe they should find another hotel, but there's really not a lot of options in the Bay Area, which is sad because, look at what happened to KrakenCon. The hotel, it's a nice sized hotel, but they just priced conventions out of it. KrakenCon is gone, and other conventions, they don't have hotels to use anymore. Because these hotels can charge, they've got that large space, and they can charge companies to have their meetings there, and it's sad what's happening in the Bay Area for conventions. So I guess this is the best they can do, but I don't know. Anyway, that's East Bay Comic Con, and if you guys are watching this, please spend a little money or find a volunteer to update your website with some new design. Even just put it a WordPress site and have some template and use that, even, because it's really sad looking. So anyway, if you were at East Bay Comic Con, or if you've gone to any other events run by this organization, please let me know. You can leave us a voicemail at 762-ADEQUATE, that's 762-233-7828, or you can email us at podcast@animecons.tv. Next week, we've got a report from Gallifrey 1, Doctor Who convention, the TARDIS, and in 2 weeks, we've got a feedback episode. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and so we would love your feedback. And so even if it's not about East Bay Comic Con or KatsuCon or Gallifrey 1, just let us know what you're thinking. You can, again, the voicemail line is 762-ADEQUATE, 762-233-7828, or email us at podcast@animecons.tv. Let us know what you're thinking. The new format of feedback episode, we're also talking about a big news topic for conventions. And the big news topic that we are likely going to cover in this episode is Vic Mignogna. And so if you haven't heard about it, we will tell you about it. And if you've got some comments on it, you can send them in, and we will take a sampling of comments we get and talk about it. So looking forward to that episode in a couple weeks. Gallifrey 1 next week. And this has been our report of East Bay Comic Con on AnimeCons TV. We'll see you next time. Bye.